My name is Dylan Cavan. Originally I'm from Choctaw, Oklahoma. I currently reside in Norman, Oklahoma. And the piece I was going to talk to you about today is a pencil and charcoal on ledger paper. All right, this piece won first place in the graphics category here at Red Earth. It's a friend of mine's daughter. She's dressed in Choctaw traditional dress with a basket, and here in the background I placed a collar necklace on a table, so kind of laid out it resembles a star. So this is a beaded necklace here in the background, and the title of the piece is Large Star. A lot of my incorporating it is either through family or friends, or me doing research about maybe what one specific subject means to me, and kind of how that brings doing some research and talking with friends and family about about stuff like that. Like particularly with this piece, really kind of drawing the detail of the dress, I think helps kind of understand the diamond pattern, the medallions, the basket, and really taking some time to look at at the necklace laid out flat, and just little things like that.
This piece, the subject is a little boy that I photographed at Red Earth, and this will be the second painting I've done of him. I did a traditional watercolor of him, and then this year I decided that I wanted to try to do a multimedia scratch work, which is what I just started doing last year. And the way I do that is I take a clay board, which is masonite. It has a layer of kaolin clay, white clay, and which is absorbent. And I laid the clay board flat, sprayed it with water, and then I took watercolor and put in the areas where I knew the colors that I needed, like the oranges and the reds and the blue, and then I sprayed it with water and just let it kind of do its own thing and dry. And after I did that, I airbrushed the whole thing with brown acrylic ink, which set the watercolor and made it waterproof. At that point, I started doing the scratching with, I use X-Acto knife, tattoo needles, fiber brushes, and all the skin is tiny, tiny little scratches. And it stands alone even without the color. In other words, you put all the shadows and the highlights in the scratching, and it could be a black and white if you just did it on a black scratch board and be very recognizable as to what you want it to be, and you could leave it black and white. But at the point where I have most of the scratching done, I start adding watercolor back in, and then scratch on top of that for highlights, add more watercolor. I just do it in many, many layers, and when I'm totally finished and satisfied with the piece, then I spray it with an acrylic varnish, and that sets everything and makes it durable and waterproof and everything. So my love of nature, and I grew up on an acreage it was in Oklahoma City, but it was the country, and I always loved animals, and of course always loved to draw. I don't remember ever when I didn't draw. We didn't have a lot of money, but I remember I was always excited when the grocery store ads came out that were on newspaper print, but the back was blank. So it was like a big piece of paper, It was a free paper. So I was always excited about that. When we get those, I would do a lot of coloring and drawing on those. And then when I became in high school and I learned about acrylic paint, I did a little work in acrylic. And then in about 1968, I saw at an art show, I saw some scratch work, and it was, at that time it was on cardboard product, and it was just black and white. But I thought, That's intriguing. I'd like to try that. So I got the materials and started doing it. I only used an X-Acto knife, and I did that for many, many years. And then in the last probably 15 years, this product came out that was a hardboard that you could add color to along with the scratching. And so I just kind of went crazy after that. So
I started off in oil. That was my basis for it right there. But since then, I've really, as you can see, I've really incorporated my welding skills a lot more into it, you know, with the frames and stuff that I make. But I started out in oil, and that's really, to me, the classical form, you know, of art is oil painting. This is the second version, you know, of the piece, okay? And I started out first, and I said I can do better, you know, and I sharpened it up and added and incorporated, you know, some better production techniques of sandblasting and things like that, you know, that I didn't have before. But essentially, you know, there was a message that I wanted to convey, and it's quite simply this. You know, you see the snake. You know, this is hell. Okay, you know, it's boiling up. It's keeping the snake heated up. You know, and here's heaven up here. Okay, and what this is this snake represents or personifies evil. Okay, and when I started out, he was a little benign looking. You know, he's a nice, friendly little snake, blowing some smoke. You know, whatever. He didn't look have the ferocity, you know, that I wanted. So I added the detail and made him, you know, a lot more evil looking. Okay, and fierce. So then after I did that, you know, that got what I done with the snake is he personifies evil. These butterflies are goodness. You know, they're just floating around here. He's putting out all this evil vibes and whatever in the world, but it does not matter to them. They're just oblivious or immune to it. So the message behind this is quite simply, goodness has nothing to fear from evil.
My name is Paul Hacker. I'm a Native American. I'm of Choctaw tribe, and I've been doing red earth here for 25 years. And I started out making knives, custom knives, and then I went to the Native American flute and then ledgers. But my love is the knives. And I like doing knives out of mule deer antler, elk horn, and buffalo horn. And we put inlaid stones, turquoise, coral, mother of pearl, diamonds, just all kinds of settings in the knife handles. These are new. This is something that I'm doing a little bit different. And the buffalo horn shines up so nice, and it's real easy to scrimshaw on, and it just looks elegant. I like that different look from the natural horn of the mule deer or elk. That's the lifeblood of the Native American in the day, and that was their food, their clothing, their shelter, and I just thought the buffalo would look good on the buffalo horn. All my knives, I try to, depending on the shape of the horn, I might scrimshaw an eagle on there, or I might put a buffalo or a warrior's face, an owl, just depending on the size of the handle and the curvature, and then inlay the stones on it. Every one of them's a little different. It's a little unique. I've had friends, Charlie Pratt, he's a Cheyenne, he taught me how to make the flutes. And as we was younger, you know, growing up, you know, he showed me how to do that. And then I had a friend by the name of Ted Miller. He was a knife maker, and he was Creek. And he showed me how to make knives, and we spent a lot of time together. And I kind of branched off from those guys, you know, and started doing my own thing with the ledger art and the Native American flute music. So it's just kind of like a different roads, you know, learning experiences, growing. It's a lot of fun.
Hi, howdy to. My name is Carol Ayers. I am from Edmond and Durant and Kingston area, both. My medium of choice is watercolor art. Love watercolor. The piece I picked out to talk with you about today is entitled Keeping Our Heritage. And I painted this of Ian Thompson's wife, Amy Thompson. And Amy and Ian both are very good traditional potters. And in this picture, Amy's wearing a brain tanned buckskin, and she has fashioned a pot out of hand dug clay, And this is fired in an open pit in the traditional way that would have been done thousands of years ago by our ancestors. And I really think that we need to keep our culture and our ancestry and not lose some of the values that we've had in the past that are worth keeping, and also some of the skills and things that are involved in doing these things. The world is moving so fast now that people sometimes don't spend the time to do things that are creative, things that help their spirit, things that they want to pass on to their family. And I'm very proud that it did win the Heritage Award at the Tvshka Art Show this past year. And also some of my other pictures that I like a lot have a lot to do with heritage, passing on things from one generation to another. And I believe that women are the glue in the culture, the glue in the world, and they pass on the spirit of the earth, hope for the future, which in one of my other pictures I used flowers to illustrate hope, and of the religion and the spirituality of the family. And I know spirituality changes over the years. I have another picture in which 4 generations are involved in that picture, passing these things on. So it's about that.
My name is Gwen Coleman Lester. I come from Claremore, Oklahoma, but my parents came from Choctaw Nation. My dad came from Hugo, Jimmy Coleman. My mother, Lucille Timms Coleman, came from Fort Towson. I have been an artist probably all my life, but professionally probably around 30 years now. This piece I call Warriors and Little Brother of War. I did that for a couple of reasons. I think about, our code talkers, and they were warriors. They were fighting wars with our own language, the language that we were forbidden to speak. And I think that is so great that something that was taken away from them at one time was actually used to help our whole country. I think that's a great thing. But then I look at Little Brother of War, and I think, now this is the way we were used to settling disputes before we had military type wars. And I think that is such a great thing to think about, how tribes would play against each other to settle disputes. And it seems like it was a much more humane way of doing things. I just think I like the idea of the contrast of it, I guess.
Hi, I'm J Reid, and I'm a Choctaw painter, and I do mixed media work primarily, and I also draw. I can do any medium. I do a lot of custom work from photographs, and I ship all over the world. And I'm so excited to be at the 30th Annual Red Earth Festival. I've got my painting here, War Ready, and my name's J Reid on all social networks, so you can find me online in my work. This is called War Ready. I made it from a live model, my friend Michael out of San Antonio, and he's very beautiful. He's got a really wonderful vibe that exudes his body. So when I met him, I just knew he was gonna model for me, and he was kind enough to do it pro bono, and came over, and these are tattoos that represent warrior success out on the field, and they would get them when they came back after protecting the village. And I just wrapped him in a Pendleton. He looks so nice, and he's looking over his shoulder. He's looking at all angles. He's ready for war. So he's a protective figure in your home. I feel very passionately about my art, and I've had a lot of support from my family and the Choctaw tribe. They post for me online. They gave me money to get my BFA at Texas State, and they've always been a really positive influence ever since I was a little girl. So I really appreciate that, and I tell everybody how proud I am.
I'm Gail Self, raised in Purcell, Oklahoma. I do sterling silver, gold, turquoise, some stones. Watched it when I was a child, about 11, from an old man in Maysville, Oklahoma. And always wanted to do it, and got in the Army, graduated, got married, got in the Army, come home, had to make a living, become a commercial carpenter. Got my children raised and played with it all my life. So I decided I didn't want to work high-rise buildings anymore, so I started selling old Winchesters and jewelry. Okay, this piece right here is a deer antler with Kingman turquoise on it. And it's sterling silver beads, handmade beads. And I got the idea from an old Kiowa man in Purcell. His son, they went deer hunting in the 50s. He got a buck, and he went to Korea and didn't come back. The mother loved the boy, and so he wrapped one of the horns, one of the deer antlers like this, with copper wire and made her a necklace out of the last deer he killed. I've been working deer antlers ever since. You know, offs and on, not like him. But it was just an idea, you can do something with it. It's just a piece. You can see something in a piece. A rock. I look at a rock and I see a picture. I see something. And if I don't see something, I don't buy the rock. But if I see something, I buy the rock, cut it, make something. So it's just your imagination. What can I do?
My name is James Wallace. I live in Ada, Oklahoma, and I'm a photographer. This particular one of the Aztec dancer was taken in Gallup, New Mexico at the Intertribal Ceremonial. There are tribes and indigenous people from all over who come to share their dances, traditional dances, with the public. I guess the best way that my art conveys my culture is through storytelling. Each one of these pictures, it has a different story for me about where I was, about where I took it. And it's a way for me to pass those stories on to other people. Some of my pictures are of culture, they're of nature, they're of landscapes, they're of things that mean something to me. If somebody connects with my artwork and it's something that they want to have in their home, then it's connecting with them as well. So it's a way that I'm able to pass along my story to them, and in turn, it's created another story for them to share with their family and their friends.
My name is Patricia LT in the art world. I was born Patta Lauren Thomas. My mother's name was Lillian Thomas, and she passed away back in 1980, and I got in the art business shortly after that. So this is a way that I honor my mother. She and my grandmother probably had the heart and soul of artists, and my grandmother was a little powerhouse, a 4 feet 7 inches Choctaw woman, you know, but she truly ran things. You know, she was the power and the inspiration behind things. And she was the one that taught me to sew. You know, I graduated from the University of Oklahoma with a degree in fashion art, clothing and textiles, and that goes way back to my grandmother. You know, we made our own patterns and we learned to sew on a treadle sewing machine, and it was a love that I nurtured and carried on with me throughout my life. And it has led me even to painting fabrics to create my clothing. And yet my clothing designs go back to traditional Native clothing. It was done with squares and rectangles, and it was torn. And I just do some really interesting, different things with yardage, simply by tearing it or tying it together. One of the pieces that's an example of that is the vest. Now I painted it, but the way I painted it, it has a feather pattern to it, but it's the folding that creates that feather pattern. You know, and feathers are very important to us. So, and yet it's still squares and rectangles. It's held together by a single knot to create it. And the folding pattern is It's an ancient Japanese technique of very precise folding and tying and wrapping and painting. So I employ lots of things, but still there's that my native culture that's back there and how I can bring it forward.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Bernard Young, a member of the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. I'm a potter. I make non-traditional contemporary pottery from commercial stoneware, and it's electric fired. This is called Luxit Chukvi Itamaya, which means Terrapin races rabbit, and it's from the Choctaw tale where the turtle convinces rabbit to a race, and then he has his cousins stationed along the race path so that the rabbit is fooled into thinking the turtle beat him. And so rabbit is on the top and turtle is on the bottom. And then I also added, this is the dragonfly for joy, and then this is the winged serpent that is from the mound pottery, and this is supposed to be the sunshine symbol for the Choctaws with the 4 directions. And then of course the Choctaw diamond pattern, which is on every pot that I make. I do a lot of research. I read a lot of Choctaw books and try to bring the stories to life in clay. I'm not a big storyteller, but I take other people's stories and depict them in clay. Like this one is the healing path. This is about the story of the Choctaw grandmothers who gathered leaves and bark from trees to make a healing tea for their children. And so that's in honor of that story. My grandmother, in fact, was one who did that. And I had a piece that was dedicated to her, but it sold. This one is called the healing path, and you can see it's a Choctaw lady gathering bark from the tree.
So once upon a time, when we weren't even considered citizens of the United States, a lot of our elders.
Well, for the first time, I danced in the grand entry, and I've never done that before. Never thought I could do that, but Carol Ayers inspired me to have the dress made and get the jewelry done, and my husband has really encouraged me. He said, "Do this for your mom," and that's what I did. It was all about when you go to a powwow, they always say the dancers are dancing for their ancestors. And neither my mom nor my grandmother ever got to do that. And so that was my dedication to them.